Welcome to Chapter 7 of The Divide. Please like and subscribe. The next morning came with the sound of a constant and rhythmic ticking of gears from the huge clock in their room. The clock was loud, however that was not what awoke Julia. It was 6 a.m. and she heard splashing from the pool below. After putting on her prosthetic, she made her way behind the clock face, which also served as a huge window to the outside. Below, the school swimming pool shimmered like a blue gem in the early morning light. And there, cutting through the water with effortless strokes, was a teenage boy. His form was perfect, each movement precise, almost mechanical, yet as fluid as the water in which he swam. Julia couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions, a mix of envy, admiration, and longing. Her eyes even teared up, and not just because of her sadness of what she used to be able to do, but also from the way the water moved, the way it supported the young man and carried him. It was like watching a dance, one she knew so well, but couldn't master again. The boy finished his next lap, then flipped effortlessly and started back to the other end of the pool. As he turned, however, he suddenly stopped. He looked around with an extreme amount of caution. He then turned his head up and locked eyes with Julia. From his perspective, she was standing just left of the number 5 on the huge clock. And although the clock's glass face was tinted, the young man seemed to be looking at Julia as if she was right in front of him. His hardened gaze began to soften, and he looked at her with more of a curiosity than a threat. They stared at each other for only a moment, yet for Julia it felt much, much longer. Then in a flash, the young man's eyes shifted to the left. His face changed back to hardened stone before he dove under the water, disappearing into the blue below. Julia looked over to see Maddie pressing his face into the clock window and slowly drooping it down.
"Is he still looking?"
asked Maddie with a mischievous tone in his voice. "No," answered Julia with a laugh. "You know you have a problem, right?" she then added as she went over to pull Maddie off of the clock window. "Yeah, well," Maddie answered, "only on the days that end in Y." "Hey, Jules, that boy, he swims pretty good, right?" "He does," Julia answered as she looked out the window again. "He's really—" She then paused as she noticed the water laying still, undisturbed, only reflecting the early morning sky like a mirror. The young man was gone. "Wow," added Maddie. "Do left quick. Or maybe he's like a merman, still underwater right now. You know, sipping his merman coffee, chuckling at merman memes on his merman phone." "Hey, Maddie," Julia spoke up to stop him. "Today definitely ends with a Y, doesn't it?" She then made a "you are crazy" gesture to his head. Maybe," he replied. They both spent another minute or so looking out the window, soaking in the beautiful pool and amazing school entrance. Suddenly, a faint rustle caught their attention. It was subtle, almost like a whisper of paper against wood. Julia turned from the window, her curiosity now directed towards the door. She exchanged a glance with Maddie, who was already moving towards it. "Did you hear that?" Maddie whispered with his hand reaching for the doorknob. Julia nodded in agreement. She then followed Matthew as he opened the door, revealing a small, neatly wrapped bento box and a folded note on the floor. Maddie picked up the note. His eyes scanned it quickly before he read aloud, "You are required to be downstairs at 8 a.m. for morning exercise with the rest of the school. Enjoy your breakfast from Mr. Interstelacular Booty Jam Man Pants." Julia playfully shoved her brother aside and picked up the bento box. They then set the breakfast on the small table, which was in the middle of the clock window. As they ate, Julia's mind wandered back to the swimmer. Maybe we'll see him at morning exercise, she thought, with her interest in the day's events growing. The sun began to rise and it filled the room. The sunlight felt like a sign of a good day to come, a day both Maddie and Jules were excited for.